If you've ever had a parent pull you aside at the end of class and say, "My kid's not getting any better," you know that sinking feeling. That feeling between wanting to defend your program but also not wanting to lose your student and recognize what the parent is saying. In this video, I'm going to give you a simple 3-step system to handle that conversation with confidence, to keep the parent on your side, and to actually strengthen your kid's program. A little while ago, I had a dad approach me after class and say, "My kid's not getting any better." And immediately my brain froze. I panicked. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to handle it. And I could see the parent looking at me unexpectedly, like giving me some kind of answer as to why their child wasn't progressing. Maybe you've had a similar conversation or a similar moment. If you have, please drop it in the comments below so everyone knows that you're not alone. Because I promise you, you are not alone in this. Here's the truth. Most parents aren't trying to be difficult, but they cannot see what we can see as coaches. So when they're sitting on the sidelines and they see the most athletic kid in the class doing barambolos and being able to pass guard and doing all these amazing things, and then they see their child who is still struggling with the basic foundations, it's going to be really hard for them to not compare and not understand that that child who is really athletic may have been training for 3 or 4 years and comes 6 days a week, and their child has been training for 3 months and comes once a week. And they're not realizing that every child's BJJ journey is different. And unfortunately, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coaching, we are not just coaching the kids, but sometimes we have to coach the parents too. Because if that parent is only measuring success by the gold medals or the wins that they have on the mats, they're going to lose focus of what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu actually gives kids, which is confidence, discipline, respect, and a sense of community and belonging. So what's the solution? First of all, prepare for the conversation. Be aware that this conversation could occur with any of your parents on the mats. Don't wing it. Track their attendance. How often are they coming? What are they doing when they're on the mats? Are they focused? Are they engaged? What other skills are they learning that isn't just the technical Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skill? Because you're going to need that to be able to show a parent that they're learning things that are not just the technical skill. And if you're prepared, you're going to be able to show the parent quickly and easily. I want you to shift the metric. So I want you to show them that submissions and technique isn't actually the be all and end all when it comes to kids Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I want you to show them that, hey, little Jimmy was able to focus for the entire session today. Or, hey, little Jimmy came in and he addressed me and he said hello to me with confidence and a smile. And then he jumped on the mats. Do you remember when little Jimmy used to cry every time he would arrive? And now he's jumping on the mats and running around with his friends? These are things that parents don't always remember, but when they're reminded of them, they're gonna start to see them in a different way. Maybe little Jimmy does still struggle to pass guard. Maybe little Jimmy doesn't understand everything in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but hey, little Jimmy might have only started 3 months ago and he would cry every time he walked in the door and now he's a happy kid. That is progress, but maybe the parent doesn't see it in that timeline or that way. The last thing that I want you to do is I want you to be able to give them something tangible that they can look for within the next month. So 1 or 2 skills that you feel that little Jimmy will be able to achieve, whether that is actually a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu technical skill, it's up to you. Or it could just be something as simple as, hey, I really want little Jimmy to feel confident to be able to speak up when I ask a question. So give them something to look out for. Give them something that they can use. Over the next month, I want you to really focus on how little Jimmy pins his partner down. He's getting really good at holding his partner down on the ground for even longer now. Or something like, I want you to really focus on how little Jimmy interacts with his friends. Have you noticed how he's been talking so much more than when he used to? He's really quite the little chatterbox now. I want you to give them something that will give them something to focus on that is positive, rather than that negative association of my kid isn't progressing or my kid isn't winning. Now you're giving them a win, but it's measured by the child itself, not by the system. So let's play it out. There are 2 ways that this conversation could go. A coach stands there next to the parent is standing next to the child, and the parent says, "My child is not progressing." And the coach says, "They just need to come more and try harder. They'll get there." No, not positive, not acknowledging how the parent feels, not acknowledging that actually little Jimmy is struggling with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills, or maybe he isn't progressing at the rate that you're hoping him to, but okay, I acknowledge that. but what about this? And giving them those positive things that he has been progressing with. Or we can look at it like parents standing there next to the coach. Hey, my kid isn't getting any better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And the coach says, actually, they've improved a lot. Did you notice how little Jimmy used to feel really sad when he walked in the door? I've noticed how little Jimmy's so much more confident when he jumps on the mats. He's even starting to answer some of my questions when I ask them in class. To me, that's so important as a coach because it shows me that he's really starting to build trust in himself and trust in me as his coach. But yeah, you're right. Little Jimmy has been struggling a little bit with pinning his partner down. So let's focus on that for the next couple of weeks. I'm going to work really hard with Jimmy to make sure that he's really understanding how to pin somebody down on the ground. Easy enough. You've been prepared for it because you're already tracking his attendance. You already know that he's been improving. You already know that he's actually doing things that are better, but maybe just in a different way. And now you're prepared for that conversation with that parent. So what do you do when you have 5 parents who want to do this at the end of every session? Because let's face it, you have like 5 minutes between classes. Your class finishes and then your other one's about to start. And quite frankly, you just want to go to the toilet, you just want to have a drink of water, and you need 1 minute to yourself. And the reality is that isn't probably going to happen because you are needed. And you've got 5 parents standing there all wanting to ask you questions. You've got one who wants to buy a new uniform. You've got one who's lost their shoes. You've got another one who is actually asking this important question of like, what is going on? Why is my child not progressing? And if you don't address it, or if you don't acknowledge and see that parent as someone who needs your support as the coach, you're gonna lose them. So here's what I do. I send check-ins. I text people, I call people, I email people. I check in with them when they haven't attended. I check in with them when they have attended. And I like to give them their progress report. It's not like a full teaching report where I say like such and such did this well and needs to work on this, but is heavily distracted in class. Sounds familiar. But no, we're not doing that. It's not a school report. All I like to say is, hey, parent's name, I really loved the way Jimmy helped me today when he was packing up the things. I didn't even have to ask him and he just started packing up the cones by himself. It really shows me that he's building that confidence to be part of my community and also how he's building those thoughtful processes and being independent with his ideas. Seems simple enough, not complex, but it gives that parent that feedback before they even have to address it. They do address it. If I have a parent come to me and say that they need to talk to me, I either can handle it in 2 ways. Sometimes I do have the time. Sometimes I can give that parent that time to be able to talk and chat. But sometimes realistically I can't. It's the same when I was teaching. I didn't always have the time to be able to talk to a parent at the end of the school day. So what happens if you don't have time to talk to a parent at the end of the day? You set up a time to chat. It doesn't have to be a meeting where the parent comes in. That's a lot of pressure for you as a coach. It's also a lot of pressure for the parent to come in all the time. Just give them a call. You can say, hey, Jimmy's parent, I really would love to talk to you about this. I do have to jump straight back on the mats for my next class, but can I set up a time to talk to you? I'll give you a quick call after class, or I will talk to you at this time, or is there a time that is appropriate that I can just give you a quick call and we can go through some things? Because I do see the progress with Jimmy. I do see him really progressing in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but maybe we just need to have a chat about how that looks. And when I have that conversation, I go through my 3-step system because I am confident, I am prepared, and I do see the progress, and I'm able to explain that with confidence without feeling bombarded, without defending my program and telling him that, well, it's not me, it's you. We don't want that. We want to keep our students. So instead, I also like to share a timeline. Hey, I noticed that you're really comparing Jimmy with that kid who's been training 3.5 years. That kid's a competitor. He trains 5-6 times a week and little Jimmy's doing so well, but little Jimmy only comes once a week. Maybe we could increase his days. Would he like to come twice a week? I find that kids progress a lot more when they attend more than once. And if that's not an option, let's say, all right, with Jimmy training once a week, let's look at how long it's probably going to realistically take to be able to get the skills that he's looking for. Usually this is looking at like a 6 to 12 month timeline. I usually can say something like, Jimmy's attending once a week at the moment. So usually I look around 6 to 12 months before they really start to feel super confident in sparring and starting to give those other kids a hard time. But I start to notice differences in the actual child's behavior and how they want to be part of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community with us in 6 to 8 weeks. And I always tell my families the first 12 weeks are the hardest because the first week they're so excited, they're ready, they want to engage, they want to be part of it. The second week, still sort of the same thing. By the third week, they realize that this is actually kind of hard. It's kind of not that easy. And all of a sudden there's resistance. All of a sudden they don't really want to come as much anymore. They might start to cry before they attend. They might cry on the mat. They might just refuse completely. And that's when I start to see that drop off is like you start and then immediately you drop off is usually because that resistance hasn't been communicated to us as coaches so that we can support that child on the mats. But essentially, if I can't get a child to come to class, I can't really do that much, and that's up to the parent as well. But after that 3 to 4 week with that resistance and with us guiding and supporting and really encouraging that child to feel confident and engaged and supported in my community, at around week 5, a different kid. They're engaged, they're having fun, and that is that tangible moment that I really give to my parents at the end of that 12 weeks where I can go, okay, yes, little Jimmy's coming once a week. Yes, little Jimmy is not a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitive athlete, but little Jimmy didn't want to come 4 weeks ago. And now look at him, he's running around. Oh my goodness, so good. Now a parent has something tangible. Now the parent feels seen, they feel acknowledged, they feel supported, and you feel confident, prepared, and ready to support your kids, and also ready to acknowledge that kids' Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills are not just Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. So next time a parent says to you, my kid should be improving faster, you are going to have a calm, confident response that's going to keep them in your program for longer. And if you do want a shortcut to build skills faster, I have developed 10 Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu games for kids with coaches in mind, using kids' language, metaphors like fairy tales and fun dragons and castles and all sorts of things that actually build Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills in a really fun and engaging way. But they also are engaging enough that the parents can start to see those skills being translated immediately. If you're interested in this, I'm going to leave the link in the description below. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe to my channel and follow along on the Art of Coaching Instagram, where I share daily tips and tricks for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coaches just like you.